Hello, this is Dr. Barry again, and we're looking at our classroom observation instrument, our observations of practice within our teacher development system. And we're now at domain number 4, student development and discipleship. So these objectives cause us to look at our teachers implementing a broad range of objectives. And objectives that are referred to within our systems like our IB, our Cambridge, our expected student outcomes, our biblical understanding of Christian education. We're looking at much more for our students than just knowledge-based. So let's first of all remind you of our rubric for levels of performance when you're observing a teacher's classroom. Again, remember that the beginning teacher may implement some things well, may not. Some things aren't always successful, but the challenge for this teacher is they're not quite sure what went wrong, and they need support to know what to do next. So they need direction. The developing teacher may not be perfect in their implementation, may not be smooth, things may go wrong, but this teacher is able to reflect on their practice and formulate a plan. They at least know what went wrong, and they may need to find help and support to know how to fix it, but they're moving in the right direction. The proficient teacher is secure in what they're doing, and then the leading teacher is able to reflect on their practice. They know why what they did worked, and they're able to share that with others. So what we're really looking at here with student development and discipleship are some process objectives. Some people call them executive function objectives, habits of mind, but the holistic education is really what we're looking at here. And so these are the objectives we're looking at. Now, I'm going to lump all of these together, the next few objectives, we could do a professional learning on each one of these. But let's just say we've collected them into groups. Let's see what we've done here. So the first one, and these are emphases particularly of IB at Cambridge, where we want but also our expected student outcomes and a Christian world and life view. We want our students to be able to look around them, to identify problems and issues, and to develop solutions and understanding. Think creation, fall, redemption, glory, or renewal. Fall, what's the problem? What's going on here? Redemption, well, how can we be redemptive agents in this situation? How can we make sense of this and come up with formulate a plan? So you'll see these terms are regularly emphasized in IB and in Cambridge. Engages students in research, inquiry, and or reflection. Is the teacher engaging students in research? Is the teacher getting students to stop and reflect on their practice and their learning? Those are the things that you're asking. Collaboration and communication. Do we see the teacher having students work together? Do we see teachers having students communicate their learning, whether it's in writing, recording, speaking? Do we see these activities in the classroom? And then lastly, do we see students considering implications, applications, coming up with actions that they can take? And we know that IB particularly refers to both local and global contexts. A good resource here, I think, is at Calvin College. David Smith and his colleagues have developed a website called What If Learning. And so it helps you think. I know, like, one of the topics there is, what if mathematics were about addressing poverty? So there are lots of ways that you can come up and look for applications and implications and so forth. So are those things addressed in the classroom with the student? Does the teacher lead students to consider the implications of the applications? One of my mentors said that a student hasn't truly learned until they've committed themselves to the truth of that learning and they've acted on it. That's led to some action in the community, some redemptive work. And so that's what we're looking for in these objectives. Now, another area is what many call differentiated learning. IB refers to this within the context of their inclusion and diversity framework. Are there things that are taking place in the classroom that this teacher has planned and implemented that differentiates instructions to include and support all learners? Now, there are several things that mean. And this, of course, can be a big area for professional learning. One framework that is very commonly used today is uniform design for learning. It's the idea that you're creating a system within the classroom and within the school where all learners can learn, and within that system. And the things that they emphasize within that framework is that there's multiple means of engagement. There's opportunities for students to engage the content through reading, through listening, through research and inquiry. So there's multiple ways of having students engage the content. There's multiple means of representation. What that means is, there may be a verbal representation of the content, the teacher talk, maybe visual representation, the teacher's using visual aids, using a wide variety of ways to represent the material. Students may see it through video, through posters that are on the wall. There's a lot of different representations. And through action and expression. So students, like, for example, if a teacher has a presentation activity, and let's say they're concerned about, are their students making sense of the content, creating a coherent presentation, and presenting that content to others, do they have the opportunity to express that presentation in multiple ways? Using PowerPoint, using video, using written expression, using visual expression. Are there multiple means? And so as much as you provide multiple means of engagement and expression for your students, that can impact this differentiated instruction. Another important thing is that the teacher has mechanisms for knowing when students need additional adult support and or services. How does the teacher know that? And how does a teacher help students access that additional support? Are there ways for the student to get additional help from the teacher? Are there ways? How does a teacher decide how to help a student access outside of the classroom services that we have available through the schools? Another way to differentiate is more traditionally talking about differentiated instruction. You think about the needs of the student. Is the Teacher aware of students who have different needs, different strengths and interests, different backgrounds that might have an impact on their ability to learn, on their learning process. And does the teacher show that they know their students well enough to be able to tailor to some extent and sometimes the instruction to impact and to take advantage of that knowledge of those students? That's what differentiated instruction is about. Now, I think in our context, a big area here is for our students who are learning and the instruction is not in their first language. So are there some ways we may have EAL support? We have teachers that provide and others who provide that support outside of the classroom. But does the teacher know how to support those students within their own instruction? So I've attached a number of resources in these areas. In differentiation, there's some links to learn about universal design for learning and what some other research related to this. And then just ideas for supporting our EAL students. Just things like thinking about speaking clearly, slowing down at times, wait time. Wait time's good for everybody, right? Give you a chance to think about questions. Having written instructions available. Instructions clear and concise. Model what you want to be done in an activity using visuals. There are many ideas that a teacher can use when they know that they have students who need that support because they're learning in an additional language. Now, there are also skills that often we take for granted. And I think I know from my experience teaching college on the university level and teaching high school level, upper school, senior school level, I often take this for granted. I assume my students know how to manage themselves, how to manage their time, how to plan their study. They understand study skills. They know how to set goals, how to make decisions. But these are all ideas, all skills that need to be developed. And as teachers, we need to help our students develop. Critical time for this development is in those middle years, during the MYP program, in the lower secondary program, in the Cambridge. Those are critical times for developing some of these skills. But they can be developed even early on, even with the kindy students. They can learn some of these skills that are often referred to as executive function. So, and I have attached some resources for looking at that. The link here to executive function gives ideas for developing these, particularly in some of the younger kids in the junior school. And then another idea that we have here is celebrating student success. Is it evident in the classroom that the teachers are celebrating and making it clear to students that they are succeeding? Are there examples of verbal praise? Is that praise specific? Not just, oh, good job, but good job on that paper, in the way you expressed, in the way you supported your ideas with evidence. Is the praise realistic? Does it make sense? It's not, oh, that's the most wonderful thing that I've ever seen in my life. But it's sincere. Are there displays of work? Are students showing their work? Do they have in mind that their work will be displayed? This idea within deeper learning of beautiful work that we aspire to. Are other students seeing their students as models? Are we celebrating class accomplishments? We finished this unit. Boy, that was a tough unit. And I am so glad that the class did a great job. The class supported each other. I loved seeing how students who needed help were getting help and support from their peers, how you were asking questions. Are we celebrating that? Do you see evidence of that happening when you're observing in the classroom? Okay, so that's our fourth domain of observation. And in our last video in this series, we'll be looking at how do you as an observer give good feedback to the teachers that you observe. Well, that's for next time.